Hello, my dear friend, and welcome to the Spiritually Engineered Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the human experience from a spiritual perspective. Come on in, and I invite you to stay. All right, so do you find yourself with something on your mind as you move about the day? Maybe it's about a person, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's having to do with money or work. Do you find yourself caring about your day with whatever that is in the back of your head? Perhaps living rent-free in your mind. I'm at a place in my spiritual journey where I'm being more intentional about what's going on in my mental space. Now, I do believe that for each and every single one of us, it's a battlefield that we're all having within ourselves. Not to say every single person is having fights with them. I mean, there are people that are working wonderfully. In other words, people that have a good relationship with the thoughts in their head in terms of how they may work with it. To see the flip side of that, of not working with your thoughts constructively, can look like being distracted or escaping, being anywhere else but the present moment. So whatever we're thinking about, whatever is in our mind, not necessarily whatever we're thinking about, but whatever kind of thoughts that we're having, it's important to evaluate and look at them. But I think it's important to also distinguish that there is a separation between myself and my thoughts. In other words, you are not your thoughts. There's a phrase I want to share with you. It's like, I am what I think, not what I think I am. And basically what that means to me is it's not so much about the content of whatever it is I'm thinking about, but more so what's the nature, what is it about the thoughts that I'm having say about how I'm operating and how, I guess, what are those thoughts saying about where I'm at spiritually? Is it creating dis-ease? Or is it more from that place of ease and peace? You and I are like radio tuners, we can tune into thoughts. Oftentimes we get tuned into thoughts that we generate ourselves, but at times you can also tune into other people's thoughts that come from somewhere outside that have no relevance, have anything to do with us. You ever heard of an intrusive thought, my friend? Ask, take a moment to just look at that, or look it up if you're not sure about that concept. But that alone tells me, like, it's just this acknowledgement that we're all spiritually sensitive. So we'll pick up thoughts and things outside of us that we pick up because of our spiritual sensitivity, who we are as a spirit with our physical bodies, having these human experiences, understanding this mechanic of living life on planet Earth. You and I are thought managers. And I think it's important to live a life of balance, ease, enjoyment, adventure, fun, growth. It's important to examine our relationship with our thoughts. And I hope that at this point, if you haven't already thought about it, the idea of just like, hey, you are not your thoughts, and not every thought you have has to do with you. Your thoughts don't define you as a soul. They're just experiences that you're having. And also with our thoughts, wherever our thoughts are, our attention, we're putting life energy into it. And it's important to be aware of where our attention is going, because we could be putting a lot of energy that, and for myself, that's not doing me a lot of good, in the form of worry. Again, I'm not mentioning specifics because it's not about the subject matter, it's more about the nature of the thought. So worry based thoughts, think of it like that, or judgment based thoughts, or or insert any other emotion or anything that, when you examine your thoughts, which I highly recommend and encourage. Again, you feel free to do what you want to do. If you want to, great, I encourage it. If you don't, that's fine too. You do you. So energy flows where attention goes, and so worry, for me, I remember I had an incident where I understood a bit of how this impacted me. I was doing my volunteer thing at this dance event I do, that happens on a weekly basis, and I just did I volunteered last this past Thursday, and I had was carrying in my mind, in my mental space, worry that had a lot to do with my physical health, but nevertheless I was carrying worry, and in some sense it's like worry, like what's that worry about? Is it worry of something bad happening, fear of some kind of punishment? And I think that's a bit of that as I'm thinking about it and sharing it for myself, of just what what of why I was having those experiences, why I was thinking those thoughts, why they were in my mental space. My apologies for them, for the background, my friend. But uh, sorry, just some cop cars just came by. I'm like, I'm trying to record here. But so anyway, back to the event. So there's the worry, right? And I kind of diving a little bit for myself of like what's been going on there. The thing is that I was carrying that thought to an extent that it compounded, and it ultimately ended up, what resulted that evening from having carried the worry around, I sprained my ankle. Thankfully, it's minor looking back, and also based on like where I'm at right now, it was minor, but it was something that I believe that had compounded from just carrying the worry in my mind and in my heart in many senses too. And this is where I think it's important to really recognize how our thoughts can affect our outer world, how the inner flows out, the inside out flow. They say like your destiny begins with a single thought. And so the thoughts that you have, oftentimes there's a term thought pattern, because it's recurring, right? It recurs again and again and again. I remember there's another quote too that I'm not gonna that I'll that basically it was something like, your thoughts become your words becomes your actions, or something like that. And basically, it goes back to the previous point that I was talking about, like your destiny begins with a single thought. All of which is in your control, by the way, because you are a creator, because we are God. All of us, we're connected. We are one with, made in the image of God, we create. So that's another reason why I think it's important to be mindful of our thoughts, because it contributes to what we're creating, what we're either repelling in our life, or what we're bringing in. And both can happen at the same time. And then also, it could be a mixture of good things and also not so good things. You know, like you ever find yourself in a recurrent situation again and again and again, but perhaps with different people, if it involves people or a situation, Maybe you always seem to be forgetting something, like forgetting your keys, misplacing things, perhaps. Or maybe you seem to create, I don't know, just, or maybe just kind of feeling kind of paranoid and scared and being out in public because it's the news and stuff like that. A lot of things that can really stimulate in our mental space. Going back to understanding thoughts and us being the thought manager. I remember something that I've learned is that whatever happens in my mental space, whatever thoughts that are there, they don't define me. Just as like your thoughts don't define you. I see it as some aspect of just of what you're experiencing, simply put. I mean, really what we embody isn't necessarily the thoughts, but what really expresses more powerfully is what we feel inside. And of course, whatever we're thinking about can contribute to that, of what we feel inside. Feel inside, you know, one aspect of it, there's the emotions piece, but that's something that we experience in our intellect. But when I mean the feeling part, I mean our psychic part, our sensitivity, our sense of belonging, our sense of connectedness, our feeling part, what we sense that within ourselves, what we sense outside, but then also what we express within ourselves. It's something that's very concrete, yet can be, but you can't prove it to anybody, if that makes sense. I can feel something that feels real and concrete to me, but I can't prove it to you. I can't give you the feeling. That's something that you have to feel yourself, if that makes any type of sense. I don't know where I'm going with this, but um, but why I bring it up is because in this process of navigating the thoughts in our heads and what's going on, what we're carrying in our mental space, it's important to have a balance, because the mental space is all our intellectual nature, our feeling nature, our heart space. I mentioned our psychic part. There needs to be a balance. And there's a saying from the founder, Dr. Francisco Cole, where it says, where you move by wisdom when you have a thought for every feeling and a feeling for every thought. And this is something that I'm learning myself, trying to deepening my understanding. Like I have some understanding, but I feel like there's room for deeper unfoldment and understanding in this particular area of just like, for every thought you have, there's a feeling behind it, and every feeling you have is a thought behind it. And I think for me, what I've gotten so far is that that's a good indicator of what's me, whereas anything else that deviates from that is not me. you know and the name of the game here when it comes to having this balanced relationship with with my own thoughts is like discerning, is this me, is this thought me, or is it not me? And it can be challenging, you know but I think what helps is, this is why journaling helps, because, and why processing your emotions as raw and like unfiltered, and putting it somewhere on paper, somewhere where you can see it, you can look back on it when you're at a place of just, you're more relaxed and more centered, more calm, to make sense of what's going on. Because I know there's value in our own feedback. That's why I use a recorder when I want to express something, regardless of what it is. If I want to express something, I'll say it and I'll listen back on it later so I can listen to myself, you know? And that's an aspect of doing this work, of just navigating the thoughts of just like, okay, what's to listen, not judge, not assume, or oh my God, or make these associations or assumptions based on whatever it is that we're thinking about, based on what these thoughts are. It's important to keep it light because it can get heavy. No, it can get really heavy, like I know it has for me. This is why I'm sharing this and why I think this is important, you know? But a moment that I think that the best step, that to take when it comes to like if you find yourself carrying something throughout the day, if something lingers on your mind and it's a pattern, take some action on it and figure out and get to the root of it, because that'll put us in a better place spiritually, because we're actually addressing what's going on. It's like, okay, I'm tuning, picking up as a radio tuner, picking up these thoughts, these feelings. Okay, let me if, feel into it. Let me allow myself to embrace it in order to listen and be with myself and what's going on. Not to avoid, not to escape. That's the worst thing to do. But to simply embrace, not judge, and then just, okay, how can I direct this all better? How can I, you know? And so, say you have thoughts that are like insecurities or, whatever the case may be. You could relate with me and perhaps have some thoughts that are worry. Maybe they're fear based. It's never a bad idea to just write them down. If you find yourself with something that's living rent free in your head, be it a person or something related to work or some aspect of life, write it down and get into some questions about, like, well, or even just, you can even take the first step of like whatever thoughts you're thinking about, whatever, if you're thinking about somebody, I think even just taking that step of what's the nature of this thought, rather than like, perhaps you can think immediately of a subject matter. Okay, I'm thinking about this person, this thing, and begin that first process of taking a step back. What's the nature of this thought? What is this thought about? Rather than getting caught up in the itty, the details, right? Like, and looking at from the framework: is it love based? Is it fear based? Is it worry based? Is it paranoid based or whatever? And then once you have that, good to go. And it's like, okay, well, what's the root of this thought? Where did it come from? Is it me or is it not me? And that's a practice, and that's a discernment piece that you'll need to do for yourself, because you'll know best. You'll have that sense, that inner intuitive knowing that, okay, that has nothing to do with me. And then the things that you feel like are relevant to you, getting to the bottom of, like, well, why? What's going on? You know, it's important to really to question those thoughts that, specifically the thoughts that aren't serving us. Just want to make this perfectly clear: the thoughts that aren't serving us, address those. Address the ones that don't serve us, whatever, be it whatever we're carrying with us. The point that I want to make here is to really address them and not just tolerate them. Because the moment we start doing that, then we're going to start creating and bringing about situations, because of what we're expressing, what we're vibrating, because the universe responds to us like, it's like a reflection, it's like a mirror. And it will bring about situations that, that can manifest in ways that won't help us, that really could create more wear and tear. And let's see. So once we've addressed the things that are holding us back, or while we're addressing them, now it's like, what happens in that process is like looking at our mental space, my inner home, my inner sanctuary, and doing a little house cleaning and taking out all the pest, all the, or you could say like taking out all the weeds in my garden, in my inner garden, and then cultivating and putting more life into the things that really matter. What are your dreams? What are your true heart's desire? What do you want to create in your life? What do you want to experience more in your life? Because we all have that. We all have those genuine desires. We all have the things that nourish us, that we enjoy doing. And I think if we can just honor that desire and And even if we're not really clear, perhaps what our desires are, but to have that exploration into, okay, what is it that I really enjoy? What brings out this in me? Again, this is another exercise, another part to it that you can go about it, so that as a manager of your thoughts, it's like, okay, I want to make space in I want to make space in my mental space for my dreams, my desires, my aspirations, things that I care about, that really nourish me, that that comfort me, that fuel me, that 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 creates that spark of just like of excitement, adventure, all those things. I mean, at least I can say for myself, that's where I'm at with in my journey of navigating these thoughts, because I have a tendency to just tolerate the thoughts that don't serve me. And in this particular case, for myself, is worry based thoughts. I carry them too much and I'm too tolerant of it. And I'm in my own process of being less tolerant and doing something constructive with it by doing the work of, okay, is this worry relevant to me? No? Okay, no. And if it is, what's going on there? Why am I worried about it? And then getting into like, okay, all right, well, why is that? Okay, why this? And then why that? All right, now that I've addressed it, boom. It's like creating a space of healing, by allowing things to surface, Because the last thing, because I definitely don't want to, I'm definitely not saying like don't think positive thoughts all the time or something like that, or imply some kind of force. But it's this beautiful dance of working through what comes through and understanding that what may come through may not have any relevance. And if it doesn't, toss it to the side. And what does have relevance, work with those things that call to your attention. Like I know for me, what's calling to my attention? Okay, and then addressing those that need my attention, being with myself, feeling the things, embracing it all for the purpose of listening to myself. That way I can better respond, and then also ultimately to take action, positive action, solution oriented. What can I do from here? All these things I think are very important qualities and approaches when it comes to working with the thoughts that are in our head. Because man, I'm sure that a lot of people out there like myself, we tolerate a lot of crap in our mental space. That's like allowing rude guests to just come into your party and just like your own home and just wreck stuff up, and it's like and just responding like, oh, this person, oh, they're breaking my plates, they're breaking my TV, they're breaking all this, all that, whatever the things that perhaps symbolically may have meaning for you. Oh, they're wrecking it. When I can have just the same power to say, all y'all leave with the snap of a finger. And I say snap of a finger to allude to the power that you and I have as a soul, a free soul, mind you. It's within our control and within our freedom. Part of the game is like, well, what's holding me back? Why am I, what's the thing that I get in my own way where I'm just doing this tolerance with the BS that has no place in my inner space? Can you think of anything for yourself that has no place, and yet you find yourself thinking about it? Those are the moments to really just have sincerity with yourself and really think about, well, do I really want to sit with this? Is this something that's is this something that's related to me? Is this something I need to address? Yes, no? If so, okay, what's there? What am I not paying attention to? What am I not listening to? You know? And I hope at this point in the episode that I'm helping you to understand that your thoughts matter. Whatever you're thinking about, whatever your mind, whatever is in your own mental space, will affect what happens in your outer world, will manifest whatever comes out, will unfold. And it can either help you or it will just tear at you, break you down. So, and I think I said it before, but I'll say it here in case if I haven't. But your own destiny begins with a single thought in many ways. It's like that. I think there's a quote that even speaks to this as well. Where it's like your thoughts. becomes words, your words becomes actions, or something like that. I think it's a Star Wars quote. I'm pretty sure it might be from Yoda or something. But nevertheless, it really kind of shed some light in the importance of what's the reality. It's just what part of like under, in understanding the spiritual game, the way I see it. You know, what you are thinking matters, my friend. What you're thinking about matters, and and I think it matters so much that no matter where you are, no matter what, like at any point in the day, maybe you've had a rough day. I do believe that with a single thought and also with a feeling with it, a thought and a feeling can turn your whole day around, because I know it has for me. And I actually experienced that recently in light of some of the stuff that I was like worried about, what I was carrying that worry. I remember experiencing that moment when I allowed myself, when I released myself into the present moment, and just like it's just amazing what that in itself can do and what that brings about in my feelings, and then also the thoughts that may come up too. And for me, that's been very light and nourishing and hopeful. So yeah, so I think I'll I think I'll leave it here for this episode. Again, just looking at my notes here, it's just like um, being a manager of our thoughts, and working with what's relevant to us, what needs our attention, and discerning what isn't a part of us and something outside of me, something that I might have picked up from my environment, whoosh, direct that elsewhere, right? Just all this beautiful dance of like of working with the the my own thoughts, right? Speaking in the I. Um, I want to make sure that whatever is in my mental space is what builds, because whatever is in your mental space, think like thought patterns. Patterns compound. So that's why, when you worry about something, or if you're joyful about something, what you put out, you get more of at times. What you get out of life, what you put into it, you know? And so that's something for perhaps I would want for you to think about, my friend. In terms of what you want more out of life, and what is it going to require for you to get more of that? How can I start from just my thoughts? It's just like, well, what do I need to think about? What do I need to feel in order to have the kind of life that you and I were meant to have? I use the word I, but feel free to internalize. I keep using I because, again, just speaking for myself here, but inviting you to kind of internalize some of these affirmations and these statements and stuff to see if there's any relevance or any resonance, right, for yourself. And what will you create more space, or in your mental space, what do you want to create more space for? And what do you want to create? What do you want to remove out of your own inner space, your own inner home? And just know that you can just go about it in a way that's like you're like the manager. You have and it's like you have a say. You have all the power as the manager to allow what's in your own beautiful ballpark, your own garden, and what isn't. It matters, it matters, it matters. Thoughts are energy. Everything's energy. We communicate with our thoughts, and the universe responds in kind with whatever we're thinking, whatever is the nature of our thoughts. And all that goes back, and I share that just because, just want to allude to just our creating power, and that our thoughts contribute to our creating power. So all I'm saying is make sure your thoughts help you create the best things that your life has to, that make sure that whatever is in your mental space help create more of what you want, of what you truly want. and eliminate anything that gets you in your own way, that gets you that tries to detour you from the life that you are meant to live. I don't know. I'm just kind of, you know, um, been doing some thinking about this, and especially with like the recent stuff that's been coming up, and less tolerating of the BS and embracing more of the things that actually build and building, creating. All is that just expression, and it's something that we have a desire for. You know, it's that expression. It's like basically the opposite of is depression. You know, and I'm sure nobody in the right mind will want to be in depression, but rather in joyful expression of who we are as a soul with the physical body, a being of light, love, joy, compassion, enthusiasm, kindness, all those qualities that make up who we are, that who we are as a spirit, and not some outer thing or some other people's concept about us can take that away, because that's who you and I are. Don't let anybody tell you less than or otherwise. Don't strip yourself of that as well. Don't tell yourself less than otherwise. You know, just think back when you were a child, because we all were children once, and that part has not died and still exists inside each and every single one of us. It's a matter of reconnecting. So I think I'll leave it here in this episode, my friend. I hope that perhaps at this point in the episode that you have some concern, or at least giving you some reasons to have more concern about just what happened, what you have in your mental space, what you're thinking about, or the thoughts that you have. Again, not thinking about. Let me kind of keep saying thinking about, but what are the thoughts in your head about? You know, like what are the like have more love-based thoughts, creative thoughts, constructive thoughts, rather than anything that's like worry, anger, frustrations, limitations. So I'll leave it there, my friend. And this has been another episode of Spiritual Engineered. I'm your host, Alvin signing out. And as always, take care, my dear friend.